Why, hello. Do a quick sound check real quick just to double check everything's working correctly. My name's Tyler. I'm dialing in from San Francisco at the Julius AI headquarters. Really excited about today's webinar. Today we're going to walk through onboarding. We'll talk through what is Julius AI, if this is your first time using Julius or even hearing about Julius, or maybe you're a returning user and wanting to learn a little bit more about how to get the most out of Julius. That's what we'll cover in today's webinar. We'll talk through what is Julius, how to get started, ways that you could prompt Julius, how to upload files, how to get a report that you could share with your team. All of this, and then we'll also point you towards several resources that are available to you as well that will help you prompt as well. Some best practices, some resources, and even a how to get started guide too. A lot of people that we've been talking to, they first get started using Julius, and the world of analysis is so big and so wide that it's kind of hard for them to get started. So that's why we do these sessions, walk through, what is Julius even capable of doing, and actually showing you in real time. So feel free to put any questions that you guys have into the chat down below. We do these webinars twice a week. So this is our onboarding webinar, and then we have one coming up on Thursday where we'll walk through one of our data connectors, Postgres. In addition to today's webinar, we also have all our previous webinars recorded in our YouTube channel. You can click on the live section down below, and you can see all of the past ones, including other onboarding webinars that we've done too. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me log out real quick just so it's really clear. And let me switch over to my demo screen. If this is your first time ever hearing about Julius, Julius is your AI data analyst. It can do anything a data analyst can do, from different types of analysis, different types of visualizations. It's pretty much the easiest way I describe it is it's read every single data and analytics textbook out there. So it could do multiple different types of analysis and generate so many different types of visualizations too. To get started is really simple. You could create an account by signing up. You could use your Google email, or if you've logged in with your email address before, you could log in this way, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and log in here to my account that I've created. To get started, it's free to create an account, and we'll talk through the different messages that you could send, but every free account gets 15 free messages every month. And this actually resets in 3 days. So this is kind of a opportune webinar if case you're a free user. For joining us today in today's webinar, I'll be sending out a code for you guys to try out Julius Pro for free for 7 days. This way you could try out all the different features that we're going to talk about today and get the most out of at least what the best of what Julius has to offer too. This brings us to our chat interface here. You could think of chat like any other sort of AI or LLM tool that's out there. You simply upload your data, ask a question, and then Julius will run the analysis for you. It's the easiest way for us to get started, and that's actually the first way that we'll walk through today. On the left-hand side, we have some navigation tools that we'll talk about. We have some feature announcements here on the bottom left, and then we have some other useful tools down here on the bottom that we'll all talk about in today's webinar. First, we'll add data, and the easiest way is by clicking on the paperclip icon here. This can be any type of file, any sort of data that you have. If you're a marketer, maybe this is your ads data, or maybe it's your campaign data, or maybe it's even your email performance data. If you're a data person, if you're a customer success person, whatever tool you guys have out there, you could download the files and upload them, and that's the easiest way for it to get into Julius. In today's example, I'm going to upload some drop shipping information and drop shipping data. This has things like sales transactions, different products, maybe different marketing campaigns that we've ran, and information about our customers. So I'm going to select all 4 of these here, and I'm going to press enter. What Julius is going to do is it's going to load and preview that data for us, and we could see a preview of it here, including some of the different columns and different rows that are available to us. We even have some ways on the right side here that Julius has summarized what's within these files too. So we see one here. This file contains detailed sales transaction data with fields like transaction ID, etc. So right after uploading your file or whatever data you have, whether it's a Google Sheet or whether it's an Excel file, or maybe it's a CSV or TXT file, Julius will automatically get an overview of the data. It's going to dive into it and just get some context about the different columns and the different rows that you have within that data. Right now, I'm just going to ask a really basic question. I'm going to say, can you load and preview the data and tell me any high-level insights? Just like I'm asking a question to someone on my analytics team, hey, what's it within this data? Here we'll see Julius generate some Python, and it's going to run this Python inside of this environment. For those of you who are more non-technical like myself, it's essentially saying Julius is going to write the code that's going to satisfy my question. It's going to answer my question for me. So Julius ran that, and then now it's starting to load some of those tables and some of the information that we have here. So I'm Julius. Hello. I've loaded all 4 files and generated first look previews, which we see here. And then we see some high-level overview and some key information about each one of these files that I've uploaded into Julius already. And it even generated a pretty interesting chart here that we could see, sales by month. We also see one for top product categories by revenue. So you can see Julius already starting to connect the dots between these 4 different files. All of this is done inside of what we call your environment. Your environment has multiple different resources available. So we have RAM, which Julius will use to store memory and store context about what it's working on. And we also have CPU, which is Julius's processing power. Similar to just like any other computer, this one's a virtual computer that lives where Julius has resources to do the analysis for you. This is what you get for a pro account. If you want more processing power, more memory, you could also expand this too. We have one that will extend Julius's context window here, so 3 hours. And you also have one that boosts Julius RAM too, so you can extend this up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. In most use cases, I'd say 95% of use cases, you can get away with just using the standard container by default. So I'm just going to leave it on that. A lot of times when you're first getting started, I feel like people just aren't unsure what to ask Julius. Maybe they are exploring this data set themselves, or maybe they just don't even know what Julius is capable of doing. Down here on the bottom, we help with this with our suggested prompts. Clicking one of these will simply ask one of the questions that's relevant to our data. So Julius has suggested we ask, what is the main revenue driver by category? I'm going to click this one, and it's going to run this analysis in that same exact loop. Julius is going to write the code, it's going to run the code, and then it's going to show me the results of this analysis all inside of my environment. I mentioned this before, but every free account gets 15 free messages. So each one of these times I'm typing to Julius or talking to Julius, that's one message. And this resets every first of the month for free users. All right, so here we have Julius outputting some of these results here. It says the main revenue driver by category is, and it shows me a table breakdown. And it also shows me category by revenue. So here we see clothing is one of the lowest drivers of revenue, while electronics is the highest. And then Julius has another way. If helpful, I could break this down further. I really like the suggested prompts, especially when I'm exploring data for the first time. If I don't know what question to ask, or maybe I don't even really have a deep understanding of this data, let Julius at least guide us through those initial first questions down here. The other thing you could do is generate new suggestions if these aren't relevant or they don't really spark the curiosity that you're looking for. You could just click this and it'll regenerate some new suggestions for you. Right now I'm using the default model. This is the one that comes with all free accounts, and every single account has access to the default model. It goes between both Claude Sonnet 4.5 and also GPT-5 Thinking, depending on demand at the time. All pro accounts will get access to all of these models here, in addition to some other ones like O3. If you click on one of these, I'm going to change over to 4.5 Sonnet. It's going to change which model is powering Julius in its analysis. So let's try another question using Claude 4.5 Sonnet. I'll say, let's try one of these ones down here. I'll say, when did a specific campaign boost electronic sales? We see some product info pops up. A good way for us to bring visibility here, so you can see instant data in Slack, something we'll talk about. And then Julius will have the same exact loop. And this is what we cover in the best practices doc, how to prompt Julius. Julius will write the code, and then it'll visualize it for us. Which model is the best for analysis? I think that's a really good question. It does depend on what you're trying to do. I think anecdotally, from what we've seen, in my opinion, I'm not sure about if the entire team agrees with me, but I think 4.5 Sonnet is really good, especially at doing visualizations and some more higher level analysis. While GPT-5 Thinking will do really in-depth analysis, it just might take a little bit longer from what I've seen. We do have several videos in our YouTube channel where we walk through, hey, how do we compare these different models against one another? And how do you see how, GPT-5 will visualize something using the same exact prompt as Claude 4.5 Sonnet? It's really interesting. But I guess it comes down to like personal preference and what you're looking for. And we just give the flexibility for users to select this on their own. So in this case, we see Claude 4.5 Sonnet. Maybe we try both models out today. So here we see it output campaign impact on electronic sales, and then it shows us this visualization. One thing to note, this data is synthetic, so that's why it goes back pretty far and it looks kind of weird. It's all synthetic data. It's nothing real. That's why we have a pretty sharp spike right here. Cool. Let's try out another model here. Let's try out GPT-5 Thinking, actually. And we'll try another one. We'll say, when did campaigns start relative to revenue spikes? And we'll see what this looks like. But yeah, it really does come down to personal preference. I myself like the way that Claude will visualize the data. I think something aesthetically is satisfying to me, but that really does depend. And we'll talk through the different ways that you could visualize and customize your visualizations in Julius too. All right, so you can see this is what I'm talking about when I mentioned GPT-5 will do a couple more steps. Here it's thinking through the different ways that it could actually fulfill this prompt. And it ran, hey, it needs to analyze campaign timing, implement campaign analysis, and finalize, where Claude just ran one single prompt there. So it does take a little bit more time from what I've seen, but the analysis is more thorough and in-depth, and we'll see that here in the text that it generates. All right, so it's analyzing campaign impacts, summarizing campaign timing right now, and then here it's going to suggest the key insights, presenting them to us. Okay, and we see this is a little bit more thorough. We see a bigger table here, has a little bit bigger of a preview, a little bit of an insight here, and then also takeaways here as well. A little bit more thorough than what I've seen from, if I go back above, the analysis that's done here is just one visualization and one table and one key insight, where there's multiple here from GPT-5 for each one of these tables. So it really does depend is what I'm coming down to. Over here on the right-hand side, we haven't talked about this yet. We have our 3 different tabs. We have Reasoning, Data Explorer, and Notes. Notes is what we saw earlier when we uploaded the files. Reasoning we'll talk about, but the Data Explorer is probably the one that I have open the most often. It's really helpful for just seeing what powers the analysis, the actual data underneath it, and what powers these visualizations too, right? So for all of these different tables that Julius has uploaded and created, you can click on the expand, and you could explore this over here in the Data Explorer, hence why it's named that. You can see the different columns and the different rows, and you can even go to different pages of this too. There's a lot of different tables and a lot of data This is helpful for a number of reasons. First, just to help keep an eye on what Julius is doing. A lot of folks ask, how do I know that the results are correct? Well, it's similar to checking the work of any data analyst, right? A lot of times just looking at the data and the way that it's either manipulating or filtering or even adjusting the data is one way. And if you have a visualization, you could be like, hey, what's actually powering this? What's the data that's underneath it? Why is it going up to a certain value when I expected something else? Easiest way to check that, look at the data that's powering it too. So I typically have the Data Explorer open in the side whenever I'm working with Julius. And you could expand this window open by clicking on the middle divider here, and you could drag this out too. It takes up a little bit of real estate, but it's helpful for just keeping an eye on what Julius is doing. The other cool part about having the Data Explorer open is you could download and export any of these files too. Maybe you want to download this and check it out in Excel or maybe in Google Sheets, something that is really, really popular for some of our users. That way you can manipulate it, filter it, and adjust it yourself, maybe fact check it yourself, and then re-upload it back into Julius if you wanted to. The other cool part is you could also explore the data, and by expanding any one of these, you can go and just see what Julius is working on for any one of these tables too. Cool. So far, we've talked about how to analyze your data and the different ways that Julius will actually prompt it and the different models, right? Let's talk about some of the other tools that are available to us here at the bottom bar. On the bottom here, we have two different tools. One is extended memory, which we see here. This helps when you're working with Julius across multiple different days. Julius will oftentimes remember what you're working on within one thread. But if you want it to remember a little bit more about what you've worked on before, it's helpful to turn on extended memory. That way it keeps context of, hey, maybe I've given Julius some information about my use case or about my company, or maybe I've told it a little bit about the research that I'm trying to do. Extended memory helps with this by giving Julius even bigger context about what you're working on across all of your chats too. And the other one that we have here is reasoning, which we'll try out. Reasoning helps for really complex prompts, ones that are multiple steps that you don't really want to break out on your own. And we'll do an example of this. I'll say, how can we, or let's say, can you forecast what sales would look like for electronics if I were to make adjustments to my marketing campaigns using your suggestions? This is like a middle of the road, a little bit more advanced prompt. Typically, I would suggest breaking this up into multiple steps and bite-sized steps for Julius to work through. But if you turn on advanced reasoning, Julius will do it on its own. It's going to come up with a 5-step plan, and it's going to work through executing and running through that plan. Just as if you were telling a data analyst, hey, I want you to do this really complex analysis that might require multiple steps. Julius will do the same way. It'll find an approach, it'll work through it, and then if anything goes wrong, if we see, hey, maybe one of these steps isn't sufficient enough, it'll update the plan as needed too. Would be cool if the Data Explorer tab, 100% agreed. Yeah, I think it would be really handy, especially if you don't want to take up too much real estate. That's something that I think is on our product team's radar, but if it's not, I'll add it to their roadmap too. I think it's something that I find myself doing or wanting to do. Is we have this one which will expand the actual window itself, but that doesn't create a separate window, which I think is equally valuable, just have it pop out. Cool, so we'll see what Julius is able to cook up here. Again, it's one thing about the GPT-5 thinking. It does it really already does like the reasoning stuff. Here we could see it did all 6 different steps when the plans are only 5 steps long. So it is really, really thorough. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, but we'll see how it's able to do it. While this is running, I'll talk through some of the other basic features that we have. So under the tools section, we have our chart themes. Really, really useful for customizing the way that the visualizations look that Julius does. We have 5 pre-built ones here from Julius: Scientific, Business, Interactive, and Dark if you're a night owl. But if none of these really fit what you're looking for, you can click on Theme Settings, click on New Theme, and you can customize all of the different things that go into making the chart your own. So things like the primary and background colors, and also the secondary colors too. A lot of enterprise organizations that we work with have a strict guideline, especially if they're making mostly external-facing visualizations, but even for internal-facing visualizations, just to match what the style guidelines are for the company. So you could change those here individually, and also you could customize every single thing about a visualization, from the width of the pixels on the axes to the way it visualizes the keys and the borders. You could just add all of these different customizations here, and Julius will keep this in mind when it's generating any visualizations for you. The best part, you could just create the theme, title it, and then you could use it over and over again. Whenever you need to create this visualization, Julius will use it to create something that fits what you're looking for. So again, going back to the model question, this is why I choose not to use GPT-5 thinking. It's really, really thorough, but oftentimes I don't need it to be a 16-step plan within a 5-step plan. I just want it to be a 5-step plan. So oftentimes I find myself defaulting to Claude 4.5 Sonnet. But again, it's all personal preference and what you're looking for. We have a couple other tools down here. So the other one that's probably the most common is our connectors, right? So far in today's webinar, we've walked through how to add data by manually uploading it. Easiest way to get started, right? But oftentimes we get questions from folks like, hey, I don't really want to have to write a query on my database, or I don't want to have to bug my data team to get me the data to use in Julius. Well, we've actually built out, and I'll open up our side menu here so I don't interrupt my analysis. We've built out several data connectors, which allows us to plug directly into the data source, wherever that may be. Most common ones that we have actually are Google Drive and OneDrive and SharePoint, right? This is the easiest ones to set up, and it's just like it's just like adding it to any other app that you might use. It gives Julius access to the files that you have either in your personal or in your shared drives that you have. Makes it super simple to just pull the files over. The other cool thing about adding the Google Drive connector is it allows you to download the results directly into Google Sheets. Back to what I was saying earlier about, hey, if you want to validate the results or if you want to filter the results yourself, easy way for you to do that here. We also have OneDrive and SharePoint used by a lot of other companies too. Works exactly the same way. You can just plug in, grab the data that you have stored there, whether it's in your own personal or it's in your shared workspace, you can pull it into as well. Two other ones that we have that are more common are Google Ads and Meta Ads. If you have marketing data or you know someone on the marketing team, we do our own analysis and we have our own Google Ads and Meta Ads, but sometimes you want Julius to actually analyze the data for you, tell you where you could optimize your campaign performance, or tell you what keywords to work on, or maybe even help you optimize what content you're putting out on your Meta Ads. You can do all of that within Julius without needing to download the data and re-upload it. You can connect straight to the source. And then finally, we have some other major data warehouses. This is for folks that maybe they're making their own app, or maybe their organization has their data living in a data warehouse that gets updated automatically. This helps, or connecting it to Julius helps with not only just making it easy to get that data into Julius, but it also gives us a live connection there. So you could see, hey, doing analysis with live data versus doing it on static data, like from a sheet, for example, really does open up a lot more possibilities too. So definitely would recommend giving those a try. We do have our webinar coming up on Thursday where we'll walk through a use case for our Postgres data and how you could actually do that. And we also have some videos down below in our YouTube for our data connectors webinars that we've done in the past, walking through how to set these up, how it actually works, and why it's useful too. There. I'll go back over here to the visual. See, Julius is still running. Kudos to GPT-5 for being very, very thorough, but sometimes it's a little bit too thorough. But we can see some of the results coming in here from the highlights of the way that it's forecasted and modeled out how performance will vary if I update my campaigns. Little funny looking chart here, but you can see how Julius can try to forecast on the synthetic data to the best of its ability. And then we also have some key findings and takeaways too. The other really cool thing that we have here, let's say after we're done with the analysis, right? What if I want to share this with someone? A lot of times you do the work, you work with Julius to create some really good insights, Obviously the best one easy way is to just download any visualizations like this, or you can copy them or save them. The other useful thing that we've seen users do is just share a link to the actual analysis, Maybe it's someone else on your data team, or maybe someone else that wants to see the in-the-depth, in-the-weeds work that you've done with Julius. You could share this, create a public link, and just copy it to them, similar to sharing any other sort of analysis that you've done. You could type in their email address. And the other way that we've seen that's really common is by clicking this button in the upper right-hand corner. This is our Generate Analysis Report button. Very fancy word for saying, hey, we're going to take away all of the different prompts, so what we've told Julius to do, and all of the code, how Julius did it, and we'll create something that's really shareable, something that's a little bit more palatable for some folks that don't want to go too deep in the weeds. Maybe it's someone like your manager, your boss, or maybe someone that you're presenting to at a meeting. Maybe you want to just share the insights and the findings. Or maybe you're just going to email it to someone. That's what this button and the analysis report is useful for. It really does take away all of the key insights and visualizations here into something that's a little bit more easy to consume. So we see the introduction, when we first started at, some of those first visualizations that we made. I don't know if you guys recognize some of these ones. And then finally, that last analysis that we did, and then a summary here at the very, very bottom. The cool part about this, we've added this feature recently, is you could edit this too. Maybe you want to take out some of these sections and it's not really relevant to the audience you're going to send this to. It's all markdown. You could just click this, edit it, select it, and remove whatever you want, or update and add in whatever context that you need to, including, if you wanted to, images, as well as any tables, anything you want in the markdown itself. Once you do that, you could click save. And then you could even download this as a PDF if this is something that you want to save to. Oh, this is my printer. You can see the PDF looks a little bit better. Cool. So that's how you get started, at least some of the main ways that you could share the analysis. The other cool thing, you could also just share this link too, and they'll see this actual report within Julius, and they could even click on the source here if they want to go and see the chat that that you had used in order to create all of that analysis too. Wow, these are really good questions, Raj. So what if I have an Excel file that has scheduled refreshes every hour? You'll still have to find a way that it connects to Julius, right? So one way that you could do this is by connecting to wherever you're storing this, if it's either OneDrive or if it's in your Google Drive. And then you could ask Julius to pull that specific file. That's one way. The other way is if you have it connected to some sort of API too. Maybe it's not in a data warehouse. You could actually pull any API directly into Julius. If you go into the settings in the upper right-hand corner, and you click on secret keys, for example, if you have this living in your own database somewhere or you have it accessible, you could pull it into Julius as well. I'll have to double check to see if it actually is possible for Julius to re-pull from Google Drive or OneDrive. I'm actually not confident, actually. I think, so if I were to go into like a notebook, for example, this is a little bit more complicated. If you were to add your Google Drive, I'm not signed in here. I don't think it'll actually pull the Google Drive or file that's been uploaded, right? I think you'll have to use one of these uploaded, one of the data connectors. If I go back here, if you add a data source, I don't have any connectors set up here. That's a good question. I'll follow up afterwards and see if that's possible. I'm actually not sure myself if Julius will pull, like if it's, the way I'm imagining it is like I've done this before where I've had Google Sheets that update from an app script. I'm not sure if Julius actually re-pulls the same Google Sheet in the same way that it pulls from our Postgres or other data connectors. That's something I'll follow up with and see if that's possible. But in the meantime, I say the easiest way to actually get started doing that, add it to some sort of data connector. We also support BigQuery, which integrates well with Google, but if it's an Excel file, I'm not really sure which one, probably MySQL maybe. You can connect to here and then it can pull from that data as long as it's updated. But I'll follow up after the call to see if it's possible to work with the sheet that's been updated. Is it better to clean my data in Excel first before uploading the data set into Julius, or data clean the data set in Julius? It depends on what you're looking to do, right? Julius can do it for you, right? So one of the things that we do have are several what we call templates. These are ways that Julius, that we've prompted Julius already to do either some sort of analysis or even some sort of data cleaning that we see here. And you can see Julius can also do it on its own too. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. I would say just give Julius a shot on trying to do it. I love just telling Julius, hey, take a look at this data, identify where either there's structure issues or where you might want to clean the data to prepare it for analysis. And Julius can handle it pretty much every single time I've asked it to do that. The best part is that, again, you're not doing this yourself. The only downside is you'll just have to upload the data here, and then Julius can structure it and clean it for you. So just give it a try. But you can see the different ways that we've prompted it here. we told Julius, hey, show the first few rows and give us a few suggestions on what we might need to do to clean the data. And then evaluate the head and check data for abnormalities, suggest any additional steps that might be taken. So yeah, you could create the analysis and have Julius clean it for you. Cool. This is a good segue into our notebooks feature. Notebooks is very similar to using chat. It just allows you to rerun analysis over time, and it gives you even more functionality to run more advanced analysis and iterate on analysis. I just showed you an example of a notebook, and a notebook is essentially a collection of different prompts or different cells that we have here. From file upload cells to the ways that we're telling Julius what to do, to even allowing a way for us to add in our own input and how we want Julius to proceed too. Very similar to using chats. We do have several notebooks webinars that are recorded down below, and we also have a lot of resources that we'll talk through in case this is your first time ever hearing about a notebook. Notebook is a familiar term for a lot of more data tech savvy people that might be familiar with Jupyter notebooks, but for folks like me, I'm non-technical, I think of notebook like a recipe. It's a good way for you to work together what your analysis is going to be, and then rerun that and use that over time whenever you want to cook with it. Awesome. Going back over to our sidebar here, we have several other resources that are available to you. If you click on the community Slack, really great way for you to just add yourself to the Julius community. We have several hundred people joining already, or several hundreds of people joined already. You can just share what you're working on, share if you have any questions or if you have any bugs. Easiest way for us to get in contact with you. We also have our teams here. So maybe you want to work on your analysis with more than one person. You can create a team. You could easily share files and do analysis together. And the really cool part, you could all work in the same notebook. So you could see the analysis and outputs in real time. Really, really handy. The notebook templates I shared earlier, we're going to be working on this page, but some pre-built notebooks or templates of analysis that we've done in the past. All you have to do is click one of these, run it, and plug in your data and go, and that's it. And then finally, we have some other resources down here in the bottom. If you click on the question mark here, again, we'll have our community Slack. We'll also have our documentation, which you can view here. Has everything that we covered in today's webinar, including how to get started, as well as documentation for every single one of our features that we've built out. If you are working in an enterprise and you do have security questions, you can just click on the security down here. Actually, no, that's not correct. I'm going to actually navigate over to what we call trust.julius.ai. This is the better place for security. You could share this with anyone who's like, hey, I don't want, we should check before we are using Julius. You could direct them to this page. All these different resources that are available to them, from our security one-pager explaining our high-level processes to our SOC 2 Type 2 access as well. You can see our work on our compliance for both SOC 2, what I just mentioned, and also GDPR, as well as all the different other programs that we have in place for making sure that your data is very secure. If there's any other questions that either you or they have, you can direct them to message security@julius.ai, and then we'll answer any questions that they have, or we'll take a look if they have a vendor questionnaire, if it's something that we want to work on. Likewise, we have some other documents here, including our TX ramp if you're based in Texas, as well as some other diagrams and documents that are relevant to security as well. Last but not least, we have our actual help center. I know there's a lot of different buttons here. In the upper right-hand corner on the three dots, you can click on help, and you can create a ticket or report an issue, whether it's something more billing related, something you don't really want to post in the public Slack channel. You can create a ticket here, and we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. And that's mostly, all you really need to know to get started. I don't want to overcomplicate things too much. Again, easiest way to get started, add in your data. We have several files that are example files that are here, but if you have some data that you want to just at least try Julius out with, go for it. Send your message and then just see how Julius does. Again, you could ask it really high-level questions similar to what we had done earlier in the webinar, to very detailed and very specific types of questions. I've done anything from just overviewing of the data, cleaning of the data, and structuring of the data, all the way to creating ML models and having it, do some really in-depth forecasting on some data. Julius is capable of doing it all. If you do want, we do have other webinars that are coming up. Feel free to subscribe to our Luma and also to our YouTube channel to get notifications whenever there is an upcoming webinar. And again, we have one coming up this Thursday where we'll walk through setting up your Postgres and one of the use cases, how does Julius actually utilize your Postgres and how do you actually, close that whole loop? We use Postgres here. It's a place where we store our data. A lot of companies store data in Postgres. And just seeing Julius work with it and how it interacts with, all of our data, we have these notebooks that are running and scheduled to run automatically, and how you can get analysis delivered straight to your inbox is really, really fascinating. So hope you tune in. If you're not able to tune in, feel free to look at our recording that we'll share afterwards. And again, as a thank you for joining, we'll send out an email with our prompting best practices with Julius and also a code for you to get started with Pro, which I mentioned earlier. How complex can the graphs get? Can it do everything Python can do? Yeah, it can do everything Python can do. So if there are any public libraries that are available, Julius is going to be able to access those and import them into our environment, and we'll be able to use them. I would say it probably supports 99.95% of all libraries. The only 0.05% is when it's a really brand new library and it just doesn't quite fit with the way that we've set up the Julius environments. But that's constantly getting updated. But in most cases, it can handle whatever sort of libraries that you have. Other way that you could just ask is just like, hey, what Python libraries do you have access to for visualizations? This is sometimes the best thing to do because Julius has all the context on what it can do. And then Julius will let us know here. I shouldn't have selected GPT-5 thinking. I probably should have chosen a different one. We'll see how long it takes to do this. Hopefully it's not a 10-step plan for it to tell me. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, let's mission abort that one. I'm gonna make a new chat here. I'm gonna turn off the reasoning and I'm gonna switch over to Sonnet and I'll say, what Python libraries do you have access to for visualizations? Much better. I can already see it's about to print those out. One of the funny things about having reasoning plus thinking on is a pretty lengthy responses. So here we have some of the core visualization libraries. Really common to see these: Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. Some of the common ones that I'll see, and then some other specialized ones too. The other really cool one, I like GeoPandas. You can create some interactive charts that are really, really cool. Things that you wouldn't even know. I myself am not familiar enough with Python to know that these are all available, but just seeing Julius do it, it's pretty cool. So let's try something else. Say, can you create an interactive map of Europe? Or so let's say an interactive map of Paris showing buildings by age, right? I did this one recently using, I think it was GeoPandas and other public libraries. I can't remember the name of the libraries. We'll see if it's able to do this. But you can create anything from interactive maps, even 3D maps and 3D visualizations too. Not super functional if you want to paste those into like a slide deck, for example, but really handy for some of our best social posts that we've done on Julius have been using some of the really cool libraries that are out there. Like we'll see how it does here. I think this is the one. Open source, whatever this one's called, OSMNX. I think that's the one I've seen. We'll see how it does. Yeah, OpenStreetMap. Yeah, that's the one. But you can just ask Julius what type of analysis or visualization you want to create, and Julius will try its best to do it using what it has. Or if there's a specific library, it'll install it or it'll try to pull it, just as long as it's not one of those really, really edge case ones where it's just not optimized for Julius. I didn't really talk about this, but you can continue any conversations or chats that you're working on in Slack. If you guys do have a Slack workspace or have a Slack, whether even if it's just like a free Slack that you guys use, I would say add it to Slack. I think it's really, really cool. You could add Julius directly to your Slack, and you could interact with Julius in Slack too. The first part that I like about that is, again, you could just, I'm in Slack a little bit too much, but you could just do all of your analysis in the Slack workspace with Julius. And it's very similar to just pinging like a person, right? So you could just like at Julius and then it'll just go and run the same analysis that we're seeing right now, but it'll just do it in the background while you work on something else, You don't have to be as in-depth in the tooling if you don't want to be. The other part that I really like about the Slack, maybe I could try to download it if I have enough time, just to show you guys. The other really cool is it helps spark curiosity in other people, you know? I think you guys are all watching me do this analysis right now, but for example, if you see someone interacting with Julius in Slack, it's another type of thing that we just haven't seen before. It's really cool just to see the questions that people are asking or their thought process and what they're trying to, you know, analyze in the data. I think that's the other really, really cool part about adding Julius to your Slack. It's very similar to if you're seeing two people have a conversation about data or some of the questions, or you can see that, you know, there's like a gut question that they have. How do they fact check some of this stuff? Just seeing it in real time is really cool. All right, so this is a similar visualization that I've done before. I didn't know this was possible using Julius until fairly recently, but you could actually pull some of the building data that they have out there using this open source library that has, you know, how long this building's been around for, how many people have lived here, when was it built. So here we see some statistical trends. I like these charts. This goes back to what I was saying with Claude 4.5 Sonnet, creating good visualizations and good looking charts. Look at that. That's not bad. And the other part is you can just go and open this in HTML. Let's see how this looks. Is this accurate? This looks bigger than what I was talking about before, but you could see building age. It doesn't look, well, maybe it is for each one of these buildings. It looks funny from very zoomed out, but you could sort of see the age of buildings in Paris. I've done a couple iterations of this in the past where you could even ask it to make it so you could filter based off of ages. Pretty cool. But this is just one example of just using open source libraries that are out there. Pretty handy. Looks like chicken pox. It looks like Dippin' Dots. Anyways, that's one of the examples there. If there's any other questions, feel free to reach out. Again, I'll be following up with the code to get Julius Pro for a week if you guys haven't already subscribed, and then also share that best practices doc for getting started. Wanted to take a second and say thank you again so much for joining this webinar. I really do enjoy just showing what Julius can do, and I feel like I learned a new feature because we're always building some new things here every time I do this. We'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next webinar. Hopefully you have a great rest of your morning, evening, or night, wherever you're tuning in from, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.